United Grand Lodge of England, or Freemasons, are calling for an end to what they say is discrimination against its members. In an ad featured in a number of newspapers, they say they welcome individuals from all walks of life, race and religion, not women, and that the stigmatisation they feel is undeserved. Joining me to discuss this is columnist for The Guardian, Dawn Foster, and the chief executive of Freemasons, who coined this ad, Dr. David Staples. Dr. David, does that mean that women can now join?
Women have been able to join for 100 years or so. We've just celebrated the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage. Two of the key leaders in the suffrage movement were indeed female Freemasons. So one of the reasons that the United Grand Lodge of England has sort of stepped out to say, why don't you talk to us about who we are and what we do, is to try and bust some of these myths that have been perpetrated for far too long. There are two women's Grand Lodges in England. One of them celebrated their 100th anniversary in our Grand Temple. If you are a woman, you can be a Freemason.
There you go, Dawn. If you're a woman, you can be a Freemason.
Yeah, as David said, there are a very small number of women. I think the issue here is over and over again, as you know, every paper has said, not that Freemasons exist, but that the membership is predominantly secret. So people don't know who is a member. We don't know how many, what positions in public life they hold. And there's this huge, huge concern, and it's gone back for years, that people who are Masons, secret in this secret organisation, are giving each other unfair advantage and, rigging the system from behind. Most people don't, myself included, don't have problems with Masons existing if they were honest about the fact that they are Masons in public life.
You're secret and you are not honest, sir.
Well, I've been a I've been a doctor for 22 years. I've been a consultant for 10 years. I used to be clinical director at Peterborough Hospital for Medicine. I have never kept my membership secret. I used to wear scrubs every day to work, except when I was going to a Masonic meeting when I'd be in a suit. And people would ask me, why are you in a suit? And it's because I'm going to the Freemasons. And equally, a huge number of my 200,000 members do exactly the same. But, I look back over the last 20 years or so, everybody that I've met who's kept their membership a secret is not because that they're involved in any nefarious activities, that they're doing anything behind the scenes that they shouldn't be. It's because they are actually genuinely afraid of what happens if their membership becomes known. And it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer that actually the popular perception is quite the opposite of what's really going on.
So the only reason they stay secret, Dawn, is because they're fearful that if they say they're a Mason, they will be victimised.
I mean, it seems like a catch-22 situation. I'm not really sure I understand David's point. The issue people have with Masons is the fact that they predominantly keep their membership secret. And the Home Affairs Select Committee and lots of other people have raised a lot of alarm bells about the fact that due to the secretive nature, for instance, a lot of police officers, a lot of people in the judiciary, and now we found out from this Guardian investigation, a lot of people in Parliament are secret members. And the Home Affairs Select Committee have pointed out there have been issues in the past of Freemasons being corrupt. There was some involvement with Freemasons in the Birmingham Six, etc. And it's very, very difficult to rule out whether or not Freemasons are doing anything untoward, anything corrupt, anything involving backhanders, if they won't be honest about the fact they are Freemasons when they are in public life.
Okay.
If police officers announced it, then most people would have no problem.
OK, I saw you bristle then, Doctor.
Well, I have a great deal of respect for the Guardian newspaper. It's a first-class newspaper. It's won all sorts of awards for its investigative journalism.
Here comes the but, Dawn.
But here's the but. But the piece they did on Monday was absolutely wrong. It talks about secret lodges meeting in Westminster, stuffed full of MPs and stuffed full of political journalists. Well, those secret lodges have had Wikipedia pages for 12 years. They've had histories published which actually talks a lot about who their membership are. One of them was even reported in the Telegraph when it was consecrated. They don't meet in Westminster, they meet in Camden. And secondly, finally, there's no MPs in the lodge that the Guardian said was full of MPs, and there are no journalists in the lodge that was full of journalists. So I think, when people get it wrong, are they going to apologise to my 200,000 members?
Dawn, are you going to apologise to his 200,000 members?
I'm not, because that is incorrect. We
Just
spoke
leave
to
that
a
there,
number
Dawn,
of
for a
people.
second. You're wrong, Doctor.
Well, the trouble is about Freemasonry is that if you want a medical opinion, you go and ask a doctor. If you want to know how to build a building, you go and ask an architect. But if you want to know about Freemasonry, you ask absolutely anybody but a Freemason. So what we're saying is enough is enough. Come and talk to us. Find out who we are. Find out what we do.
Dawn is saying that you are wrong. So tell us why she is wrong.
I'm absolutely not wrong because I know who the members are.
OK, he knows who the members are, Dawn.
Well, why doesn't he tell us in that case?
OK, great question. Hold on, Dawn. Why don't you tell us, Doctor?
Well, because we allow people to have the choice to make their membership public or not.
So how do we know then? How do we know if you won't tell us?
Let's just give the justification for that. The European Court of Human Rights on two separate occasions has said that it is illegal to force people to disclose their membership. OK,
Dawn, we'll just have to accept his word for it.
Well, this is exactly the problem. If we knew who, we know that there are 4 MPs, they've spoken to us. We know there are senior Fleet Street journalists, they've spoken to us. But we don't know the full membership, and this is why people have an issue.
Dawn, why don't you come into Freemasons Hall? I will show you our database on the computer. I will show you the occupations of the people who are members of those lodges. I'm not going to tell you who they are, but if you want to come and see the occupation off our computer, you're more than welcome to do that. I have nothing to hide on this, and I know that I'm right.
But you're hiding their names.
That's right, because we do not force people to
disclose their membership. So you do have something to hide?
Well, let me give you a personal story. I was chairman of a charity for 10 years in the East End of London. We did good things. We got minimum wage for immigrant workers who cleaned Canary Wharf. I became CEO of the Freemasons in September, and as soon as I found out I got that job, somebody came up to me and said, I'm terribly sorry, but you can't be chairman of this charity anymore. You can't be chairman of this charity because we work with the Catholic Church, we work with the evangelical wing of the Church of England, and I'm afraid they just don't like Freemasons. And that is prejudice, and this needs to stop.
Dawn.
OK, go ahead.
No, don't go.
I mean, the thing is, people are worried about Freemasons because there is a historical precedent for corruption and for cover-ups. For instance, you look at the Birmingham Six, you look at the West Midlands Serious Crime Unit. There are lots and lots of instances where Freemasonry has been involved in corruption, and people are very worried about this. If you genuinely have nothing to hide, people should be open about it. And if you know people are Freemasons, there's nothing to hide. People aren't suspicious. Comparing this to, gender discrimination, racial discrimination is just foolish. You choose to be a Freemason.
No, I'm afraid it's not foolish. I've got personal friends who are lawyers. Because of the misreporting for the last 20 years or so, they will not disclose that they're Freemasons because they're afraid of being connected with the corruption nonsense that's going around. We are a group who do a huge amount in the communities. We raised £33 million for charity last year. I can tell you all about our ceremonies and what they mean and what we do if we had time. But, don't take it from me. Go and talk to the people up and down the country who are Freemasons. Visit our lodges, visit our headquarters in Covent Garden, which is open every single day. We do tours, we've got a library, we've got a museum. Let's put an end to these rumours that we're a secret society and all these things which have just been reported for 20 years.
You do not share names. Earlier on the BBC when we were talking, you wouldn't even show us the handshake.
Well, it's a gimmick. I don't want to talk about gimmicks.
Why?
I want to talk about the fact that
that
people lose jobs and are feared.
Show us the handshake.
No, I'm not going to show you the handshake.
Why
and here's
not?
why. It's a token of recognition used in our ceremonies in the lodge. We're forbidden from doing it outside the lodge, and bluntly,
Why?
it's just not something that I'm going to show on national television.
Why are you forgiven? Why are you forbidden?
I've explained the reasons why this morning.
Why are you forbidden from
I'm sorry, I missed that
question.
question.
Why are you forbidden from showing us the handshake?
Because let's talk about its history. We're a 300-year-old organisation. There's all sorts of things which we base ourselves on, the medieval stonemasons. The handshake was something which was a token of recognition from times when people were illiterate, when they didn't have CVs, when they needed to show their expertise at a level of stonemasonry. We use that in a symbolic sense to mark the difference between somebody who is a first-degree Mason, a second-degree Mason, or a third-degree Mason.
So there are different handshakes for different degrees.
Yes, there are. And you're absolutely forbidden from using it outside a lodge.
How do they differ?
Well, they're different. As I say, if I start going into the ins and outs of it, I'm going to be breaking what I promised in my lodge.
Not going to tell you, Dawn. Dawn, he's not going to tell you.
I'm afraid I'm not going to tell you.
All
but
right,
that
Dawn,
doesn't make us...
Hold on. We've had you. Dawn, go.
I mean, the handshake is one example of, you know, something secret here. But again, it's used to show other people that you are a Mason. Brian Paddock talked about the fact that he used some of these secret clues, and when he was in the police force, police officers who'd been quite cruel to him beforehand suddenly helped him, you know, get along and get promotions. And this is what people worry about. It's about the secret recognition, you know, that subverts merit when it comes to jobs, that helps corruption. If you don't have anything to hide, publish your names, be open about it, and then people won't treat you with suspicion. They're only suspicious because of how secretive it is.
OK, well, Doctor, surely it's a good thing. I mean, if you're a member of a club that could otherwise be oppressed, and you then suddenly know that other people are members of that club and you help each other, what's wrong with that?
You know, I'd be delighted when the day comes that all of my members are able to proudly say that they're members of the United Grand Lodge of England.
Tell them to.
I'm afraid we're not there yet. And it's a very, very strange argument when you're talking with a Guardian journalist who's saying, we don't need to provide any proof of wrongdoing, we don't need to provide any evidence, we don't need to go through a court, we don't need to do anything. You're all bad and evil unless you do this, this and this. We have a right to associate, which is enshrined in law, along with everybody else.
And you know, just with respect, Doctor, that wasn't my question. My question is this: if you feel oppressed, we know why Brian Paddock probably felt the way that he did as part of the police service, because he's gay, he's openly gay, and he felt that people were not helping him and they were being very cruel. Suddenly, people realised that he was a Mason, and as a result, he was helped by those other Masons in the police service. What's wrong with that? If you're a member of a club and other people are helping you, what's wrong with that? That's what I'm asking you.
Well, what's wrong with that is because we're an organisation based in integrity and morality, and that has no integrity to it and is not moral.
So he shouldn't have been helped just because he was a Mason?
Absolutely not. And the United Grand Lodge of England has a very clear policy on the standards it expects of its members' behaviour. And if they transgress those standards, if they are convicted of anything involving fraud, anything which gives them a criminal record, they are immediately expelled. Okay. If they use that handshake outside the lodge for their own personal benefit, they are expelled. And we shouldn't judge 200,000 members on the behaviour of a few people 40 years ago.
OK, Dawn, so Brian Paddock was wrong to say that. Lord Paddock was wrong to say that.
I don't think so. I think the issue is that this happens all the time. I'd like to know how many people are expelled for this, but also there's a long history of massive corruption involving the Freemasons, the Birmingham Six, you know, the Stalker affair. You know, somebody was murdered under Blackfriars Bridge as a result of Masonic activity. There's a long history. There's still a lot of you know, corruption going on in local government and the police. You know, Steve White, former police Fed chair, said that he felt that progress was being blocked, you know, throughout his career by Masons at a very, very high level. And he said that on the 1st of January this year.
Guys, we're out of time. You started, Doctor, so I have to let Dawn finish. It was great to talk to you. Thank you both for joining us. We appreciate it. Thank you. That's a debate for half an hour in itself, isn't it?